demonstrations against the US government called No Kings protests are taking place across the US. This is the third round of rallies since US President Donald Trump started his second term. Liam Kent is the chair of the Blue Anchor Project, one of the Democrat-aligned campaigning groups involved with the protests. He joins us now from Portland. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Liam, what sort of turnout have you seen on the streets there in the United States for this third round of No Kings protests?
Well, I want to say thank you so much for having me on, firstly, and good day down there. I was told that's a good thing to say.
Yes, you're spot on.
Perfect. We have lots of turnout here. We are estimating about 9 million people so far, not only in the country, but worldwide. And it's going to be growing when we get more of the totals coming in. What's wonderful to see is that it's not only in the big cities, but it's everywhere, whether you're in small communities or big cities. For instance, there's Portland, Maine, and that is the largest city in this state. I was there this morning to protest against Susan Collins mainly, and there's Salem, Massachusetts right there as well. And these are kind of the just Northeast hubs. We have folks down in Texas. We have folks in California, Florida, DC, over in Minnesota. There's tons of people all across the country that are really engaged. And it's wonderful to see just the amount of enthusiasm there is that folks want to make a change. And these types of events are very key in ensuring that the momentum can keep going forward into the election this November.
How much momentum have these protests been gathering, and what's fueling that growth of the people who are signing up to protest?
Well, other than Trump being a moronic leader and trying to become king, a lot of what's going on is the affordability crisis, unfortunately. And through his whether it's the Iran war that's starting or his ability to somehow massively screw up the economy here, which is almost an impossibility, but somehow he's doing that, is basically that tied in with the fact that healthcare is unaffordable at the moment. And then you also have food is increased by 20%. You have housing is practically unavailable at this point. There's a multitude of issues why people want to be involved, but it's mainly starting to become more about the affordability crisis, which he has actively denied that the affordability crisis is even a thing, which is ridiculous for him to say. But alas, we are thankfully making progress in wanting to try to make sure that more people are voting. And our main goal is to push that momentum into November to finally vote Republicans out of power and get Democrats back in charge to help take back our country.
As you say, the aim is to make change. How do you think the sentiment that's being reflected in these protests will translate at the midterm elections in November?
It's energizing people. That's the biggest thing we've noticed, and especially through my organization, Blue Anchor Project, a lot of what we are seeing through our town halls and through chatting with people both online and in person across the country is that they want to see people energized. They don't want to feel alone. And that's a really big thing about these protests is that it shows you are not alone in this fight. And one thing that is it's very endearing to know, and fighting, it's a big fight and it's a long fight that we're going to be doing this for, unfortunately, but it's going to be worth it because we're going to be able to make the positive change to help make America what it should be. As the richest country in the world, we have an obligation to make lives better for everybody and to really finally make this economy work for the people. And it's annoying that it has to come down to money, but unfortunately, that is one of the few things Americans seem to understand jointly.
Liam, have you had anyone to turn out to sort of counter or push back against some of the messages at their protests?
Yes and no, depending upon where you're going. It's quite fascinating. They're almost scared to come out and say that they don't support this. It's interesting. I haven't seen much, to be honest. If they say it, it's a small group of people who who feel confident enough, I guess, to do it. But overall, it's the vast majority of people that want to make a change, whether they go out and say it or they don't. We've been seeing a lot in our polling and through our conversations across the country that Republicans are in a deficit when it comes into winning this election. And as it looks like Trump's going to be doing ground troops coming in, and their estimates, and I've heard from my sources on the Hill that Republicans are worried that they're going to be losing about 40 to 80 seats in the House minimum. So the Republicans know they are in a lose situation. So they're grasping and they're going to do more drastic things to try to cling on to power. Like one thing we're noticing right now is they're trying to actively undermine the pillars of the November election and start to try to basically rig that election, which is kind of bizarre to think about it because that was their entire modus operandi for the past two elections, but they're actually trying to do it now rather than just making things up. And so that's a big thing is we're seeing their promises or rhetoric that they were saying, they're trying to make it come true, but to make it so that people don't really notice it. And thankfully, these protests have helped people realize the tactics that they're playing. And so that we are then able to have more awareness of it and combat it. Like right now, they're trying to force people to have voter ID. And that the big thing about the SAVE Act is that married women, for instance, if they become divorced or they don't have the same last name as they have on their birth certificate, they're going to be invalidated to be able to vote unless they get an updated passport, which costs about $200 now. And that process being slowed because they're strategically defunding certain aspects of the government, including passport renewal. So it's not an easy situation, but we are thankfully making the progress needed to be able to take back our country for the better.
All right, Liam Kent, we really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me on. Have a great day.